Welcome to the 432nd episode of the Jami Dulaney Plant-Based Wellness Podcast. My name is Jami Dulaney, and I'm your host. I'm a plant-based cardiologist and endurance athlete living in Southwest Florida. Thank you and welcome. Well, we just got finished with the birthday bash of the Diva. She turned 90 years old. My mother, for all those who don't have the cookbook, you should go over onto Amazon and get the cookbook, but it's the doctor, the dietitian, and the Diva is my mother. And she turned 90 years old this weekend, and we managed to surprise her with 45 of her friends. And she didn't see it coming. We had to tell a fib or two to try to keep her on her toes, but we managed to pull it off. It was a mixed crowd. Most people were plant-based, but there was a significant portion that wasn't. And I will tell you something about the Diva. And for those of you listening for a long time probably already know it, but my mom kind of went kicking and screaming to be plant-based. I read A Diet for a New America a long time ago, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and I decided to become vegan. I thought the family would follow. They didn't think that was a very good idea. So I struggled along on my own for a while and would pick around and, eat the vegetables and make some plant-based things. And sometimes they would eat it and sometimes they wouldn't. But in the mid-2000s, my dad developed progressive dementia, and my mom got lymphoma at the same time. And so she was undergoing chemotherapy. Luckily, they live with me in a grandparents' suite, so they have their own private quarters. So I became the chief cook. Up until that time, my mother was the matriarch cook of the family, and she prepared most of the meals during the week, and I cooked on the weekend. And at that time, the time changed. That time that the organization of the menu changed, so to speak. When you're getting chemotherapy, a lot of times your white blood cell count goes down, and the risk is always for secondary infections, especially in the GI tract. So I was very adamant about not having food or meat in the house, so no chicken, meat, pork. I didn't want in the house, and of course I didn't want dairy in the house for my vegan reasons, as well as the promotion of cancer cells. So everybody became plant-based at that point, somewhat against their will. So it was, I could eat that, it's not so good, make that again, and we kind of developed a repertoire of food that she eventually liked. But if you talk to the Diva, she will also say that during that time she would sneak sardines. And she attributes the sardines as saving her because she didn't like much other food. If you were going to pick a fish, sardines are very small. They are high in omega-3s. If they are packed in water, it's less oils, obviously. So in the world of fish, less mercury in them than, say, tuna or other fish or big fish. But nevertheless, one of our other favorite fishes was salmon. And so we were talking a few months ago, and she said, she likes what we eat, but she would really, sometimes the only thing she missed salmon. So I thought for her 90th birthday, and since we would have people here that aren't plant-based, we would include salmon in the menu. The party was catered by my chef that I use for my nutrition conferences. She's also catered family events. Her name is Sheffy. If you live in the Port Charlotte area, she's highly recommended. She can cook anything, and she fails to get rattled no matter what. But I told Sheffy that I wanted to have salmon along with the rest of the plant-based food. And the rest of the plant-based food came from our cookbook, with the exception of the birthday cake, which was tiramisu. And the tiramisu was plant-based, but it was made with coconut cream and cashew cream, so it was a decadent birthday dessert. I think most of you will probably forgive me, given that it was a 90-year-old birthday celebration. And little pieces shared by many. But anyway, so we had people that weren't plant-based that thumbed their nose at plant-based. So her golfing buddies really don't want any part of plant-based nutrition and kind of harass her when she's at the golf course, because they're eating their bacon and eggs and their burgers after golf, and my mom is eating a side salad or potatoes or something like that. She does stay true at the golf course. And then we had some plant-based friends that were her yoga buddies, and some friends of mine, and some family members that were not plant-based from New York City, and good friends of the family for over 50 years, or I guess over that aren't plant-based. So it was a wide variety. In years past, when I've thrown parties, I make them completely plant-based. But again, this time I decided to roll out the salmon for the Diva. So besides salmon, we had a hummus platter, and we had stuffed tomatoes, which were made with a curried-type hummus filling. We had a large fruit bowl. We had a large salad, mixed greens with tomatoes and radishes and carrots and cucumbers, with 2 or 3 plant-based dressings that are oil-free from our cookbook. I made stuffed shells because of our family recipe. They are in the cookbook. The ricotta is made with a combination of tofu and spinach and garlic and allspice is the secret herb, or secret spice, I should say. We had roasted potatoes. I said salmon, and a large servings of mixed vegetables, so squashes, zucchini, broccoli, asparagus. So there were plenty of vegetables, and tiramisu. And everybody had a great time. My observation is that everybody raved about the plant-based foods. They loved the hummus, they loved the stuffed tomatoes, they loved the shells. We had stuffed mushroom caps with a spinach and panko-type stuffing. They loved them. They loved the tiramisu. Nobody was really raving over the salmon. People had salmon, but there was salmon left over. It wasn't like everybody just ate salmon and didn't eat anything else. But people liked the plant-based food, and they were really happy with it. And I've come to the conclusion that the reason that they liked the plant-based food, because it wasn't a plant-based menu, because there was salmon on it. So their comfort blanket, the comfort food of salmon, was there on the menu, so they weren't forced to be plant-based. But yet it was there so they could try the other things and experiment without having to dip their toe into the vegan world. And everybody had a great time. And so I think that I learned something from that. Again, it's always been how you present things. I never tell people what's in it until they ask. People raved about the stuffed shells. People that would say they hated tofu raved about the stuffed shells. But they liked it, and because it wasn't forced on them, because there was salmon in the background. So, there might have been something else that that was okay in respect. So I think that I'm anxious to see when my mom goes back to golf, if anybody asks her any more questions about plant-based nutrition. I think a lot of people thought more and more about it. My cousin was here from New York, and she made the comment that she had never seen a healthier group of older people, largely because some of them were very in good shape plant-based people as well. So, I think it got a lot of people, thinking, and the fact is my mother turned 90 years of age and is plant-based, with the exception of a stolen sardine here and there. But certainly, when she eats with me, and I do the majority of the cooking, 99% of the cooking these days, is all plant-based, oil-free. So something to be said for it, especially given the fact that her brothers all passed in their 60s. Their children, who would be my cousins, except for the one that's here, came to the party, have vascular disease, have high blood pressure, have diabetes, have endocrine issues. So it's not like the genetics aren't ripe for destruction, but the nutrition is what the difference is. So I think it was a good demonstration, a good showing of plant-based nutrition in all its glory. If you haven't met my mom, the diva, you would know that she's not your average 90-year-old. She's still golfing twice a week, and she golfs to win. If she's not shooting in the 80s in her executive course, she's somewhat disappointed, actually very disappointed. She has no desire to enjoy the weather. She's there to win. She does yoga once a week. She's an avid Warriors basketball fan. Unfortunately, they lost on Thursday night, or Friday night, but had they been in the playoffs on Saturday night, we may have had to cancel the party. So she is up till 1 o'clock in the morning watching her favorite players, Steph Curry. If you're out there and eating plant-based, maybe you should. Maybe you would have won on Friday night. And she's always busy and always moving. She wears a Garmin, and she knows how many steps she gets a day, and she makes sure she gets her step allocation. She also attributes using the dust mop as a form of exercise. So she has we have 2 large German Shepherds, and she goes through the house with her dust mop, getting her steps, shaking the dust mop, which is a good exercise. She also dances. She likes to keep up on the recent or the newest dances, and will try to learn them by watching Facebook one way or another. She's actually had a bit of an injury after practicing some of the new dances out there, but recovered nicely. So, again, if I had to, how to attribute her longevity and living well, not just living, it would be that she keeps moving. She gets plenty of sunlight. She's outside again with her golf. She's outside in the backyard. She throws the ball for the dog. She's outside on the back porch, cleaning, sweeping, and she keeps moving. She also goes and is an avid shopper, so she goes and walks around the mall. She makes sure she goes out and does something every day, so she doesn't fall into the slump of not getting out among them, so to speak. She has never asked what is the minimal amount I can do. My mom's also always been the maximal amount that she can do, so she goes until she can't. I think a lot of problems is people try to get away with hacks, and they do the minimal amount that they think is possible as opposed to the maximal amount. She pays an extreme amount of attention to details. One of the problems with the party and getting ready, her and Addie, the registered dietitian, are the artistic ones in the family. I'm the nerd, in case anybody wonders, and the decorating usually is done by my mother. I'm in charge of the kitchen. My mother's in charge of the decorating. And so with having to decorate on my own and to the expectation level of the diva, put a lot of pressure on me. So I was glad when Addie got in to, give me some backup on that aspect of things. But she pays attention to detail not only with how she dresses, how she decorates the house, but in every aspect of her life. So she, her golf outfits match, her golf clubs match. She pays attention to her swing. If she pays attention to the moves in yoga and does her best, she tries to make sure she's pleasing the teacher and does things to the maximum amount of her ability. So I think the max is kind of a good takeaway from all this. Go for the max. Don't try just to get away with the little bit as you can. One of the things that she likes to play with her great-grandson Caleb is how does Nuni laugh? She's called Nuni, Italian for grandma. And my mom has a very boisterous laugh. And most people that know her, she always has a smile on her face most of the time. And Caleb knows that Nuni laughs big. And I'd also like to think that her positive mental attitude and her big laugh is also something that you might want to look into if you want to live to be a great 90 years of age. On the contrary, I think people have limited success with their health and nutrition if they take the quick and easy way out. Certainly there are food services, there's takeout, there's prepackaged foods, there's pre-cut foods, but I've said it before, I think when it comes to your nutrition, cutting corners and not paying attention to detail is the difference between people that do good and people that don't benefit from maximal nutrition. So whatever the illness is, it is really important to focus on the goal. Is it reversing disease? Is it getting off of medications? The higher the stakes, the more aggressive one would think. But, it comes down to it. Why not give it your best shot when it comes to nutrition? So I kind of cringe in the office when I hear people say things like, I don't have time, or cooking takes away from my other enjoyments, or it's on the back burner. Don't feel like it. It's the last thing that we think about. It's the least amount of. It's the thing that gets the least amount of planning. In reality, it should be number one for growth and development of children, maintenance of health, reversal of disease. And I think that TV and social media play a big role. As far as, get takeout. People are always getting takeout on TV shows. Nobody cooks at home. Only people, the help cooks, the people that don't, it's seen in a very negative way, the people that actually go into their kitchen and cook food for their family or cook food for themselves. And it's not seen as a worthy reason to spend time doing, to cooking. So I go back and say that, there's probably nothing more you can do to help yourself along than pay attention to your own details. So whether it's planning your menu, making sure that you have organic ingredients, looking at the ingredients in your food to make sure that everything's there. I saw an ad today for a powder called Cardio Boost, I think it may have been. And of course, I pulled up the ingredient. The person was getting ready to go on a set to have a big interview, and thank goodness her staff gave her this powder drink of Cardio Boost that had all these great things in it. And so I pulled up the nutrition label, and there were, things in that label such as vitamin A, C, E, K. The vitamin C was 45 milligrams, and it says it's 50% of your RDA. It's not as much as a piece of fruit. Vitamin D, 50 micrograms. Not as much as going out in the sun for 15 minutes. All the vitamins that were in there, which I assume are all synthetic, well, they are, weren't much more than one serving of fruits and vegetables. So probably one salad would have covered everything. As far as the vitamins that were added to this supplement. And then the Cardio Miracle Nitric Oxide blend of L-arginine, alpha ketoglutarate, L-citrulline, organic beet root, ornithine, threonine, quercetin, roots of things, coenzyme Q10, and then there was a vegetable blend of. The vegetable blend was root of turmeric, carrot root, coconut fruit, Arceola, which is a cherry fruit, blueberry fruit extract. Everything was either an extract, there was a couple sprouts, sweet potato roots, sunflower seeds, shiitake fruiting body, maitake fruiting body. First thing I did was wonder how they made, all these things. And of course, the first thing that came to mind was they took the scraps of different things that were being made for other things and put them all into a powdered form and sold them as proprietary nutritional blend. Also, it has the nutritional value of, one beet or, a handful of lettuce or anything. So this well-known PhD person getting ready to give this big talk feels saved by this cardio powder, which is quite disappointing. because she is, promoting health and how the pharmaceutical industry is doing bad things to us, but is okay with the supplement industry supporting her endeavors, especially if it's free, probably. And she could have taken time to have a salad and some fruit. It would have been a much better meal. I am not sure. I don't think there's been much in the way of studies of beetroot powder and L-arginine added. It's certainly not going to mix with the microbes of your tongue and the amylase and causes big nitric oxide boost. If it causes any of a boost, if it doesn't make it past your stomach without being completely degraded, it's going to be very little. So you're never going to get as big a bang from your buck with powders and processed things as you are with whole foods. And again, I think it promotes, I am too important to have time to cook. And the people that are important should drink powders and do hacks instead of taking time to look at the nutrition that they could possibly get in with real whole foods. See, that's a pet peeve of mine. In the office below me, they do cryotherapy and sauna therapy. And I see people walking in that would benefit from actually doing some nutritional therapy. A lot of nutritional therapy. But again, we're going to raise our body temperature, and it does have some, I do believe that some saunas have some nutrition or some benefit to the body. The jury's probably out on the cryotherapy, other than it makes people feel a little bit better and maybe decreases inflammation for a short period of time in particular areas. I'm pretty sure that the cosmetic effect is very short-limited, but nevertheless, people are willing to spend time doing 20 minutes sitting in a sauna that you can't do anything else but sit in a sauna and then not eat correctly. So there's so many disconnects when it comes to what's worthy of your time that it's kind of hard to believe. An alternative to that would be to go for a run in the sun where the near infrared radiation is the majority of the sun. You'll get the maximum amount. You'll heat up your body, decrease inflammation, and then you can come home and eat fruit and vegetables and get more bang for your buck than you would have at sitting for 25 minutes, not even being able to have a pencil and a paper to fill out your grocery list. One of the biggest things that's lacking in our society is exposure to sunlight. If you look at the percent of near-red light, it's 43% of all the radiation that comes out of the sun. So there's UVB that everybody's afraid of and the blue light, but for the most part, the benefits of sun, especially the morning sun and the afternoon sun, are substantial for health, decreasing cancer risk, decreasing, improving mitochondrial function. And the reality of it is that most of the melatonin that's produced in our body actually comes from the mitochondria. And sunlight will interact with the mitochondria and help you to produce more melatonin. So about 5% comes from your pineal gland. The rest comes from your mitochondria. And I talk mitochondria all the time, those little organelles that help with your metabolism and help clear out metabolic waste. And we lose those when we lose muscle mass and bone mass. And we need to preserve them and preserve their function. So exercising, especially the long walks at about 70% of your predicted maximum heart rate, is one of the only things that will restore mitochondria to our bodies and help to make them. But the function of them is also improved by sunlight and near-red saunas. But again, go out and exercise, get your heart rate up, get your core body temperature up, be out in the sun, and you can do a lot of good for yourself. We had company this weekend for the birthday party, and everybody got out and was enjoying the sunshine. We were outside playing with Caleb, but we also went for a run. I didn't miss any of my training while we're getting ready, for the party. Got up a little earlier, but made sure, maybe ran a little shorter, but made sure we got it in. There's always time for your priorities, whether it's exercise or nutrition. There's always time for your priorities. We just have to figure out what our priorities are. Most people want to take a glutathione supplement, but the reality of melatonin increases the production of glutathione and the other proteins and enzymes that are needed to activate them. So again, get out and get some sun. It's 43% near infrared, and you can stimulate the production of melatonin, which will ultimately help your circadian rhythm, which will ultimately help you sleep. Sleep disturbances is one of the biggest things that people have, especially as they get older. They worry about things, they stew over things, but they also have decreased melatonin production because of sedentary lifestyle, loss of muscle mass, lack of sun exposure. So wouldn't it be nice if we got people out and get some sun exposure and some exercise, and then we would correct a lot of sleep disorders instead of giving people sleeping aids that ultimately cause hangovers and so forth. The last thing I wanted to talk about was alternative tanning techniques. I've not noticed, but it has been brought to my attention that a lot of people get spray tans or use commercial products to avoid the potential damaging aspects of UV radiation and sunlight. And one of the sunless tanning products, actually the only one that has been FDA approved for tanning, is called DHA, which is dihydroxyacetone. Originally, it was derived from the fermentation of sugar and sugar beets. There are, I assume, synthetic productions as well. It works by combining with dead skin cells and causes like a reaction like in cooking that turns things brown. And so it actually causes oxidative stress to the skin cell, and when you slough the skin cells off, that's how you lose your tan. But the reactive oxygen species that are produced by this reaction can actually degrade collagen and elastin, which also promotes premature skin aging and wrinkle formation, exactly what people were trying to or thinking they were avoid by using a spray tan. Some of the products add vitamin E and vitamin C to help to reduce that, but again, there's not been much in the way of studies to determine whether that helps or not. There's also problems with inhalation. So if there's absorption in the mucous membranes or broken skin, you can get these reactive oxidative compounds that actually cause DNA damage. So it seems the potential to have a lot of the same side effects from UV radiation are certainly apparent. The other thing is if you go out in the sun when you've had a spray tan, it also makes you more sensitive to the UV radiation, and so the same damages can happen. It's not a sunscreen by any stretch of the imagination. And, to circle way back around, you're not getting the exposure and the production of melatonin from your mitochondria. You're not getting the vitamin D. And we're just going to perpetuate this vitamin D deficiency from staying inside and being afraid of sunlight, which is mainly made of good radiation sources. So, takeaways for today: move a lot, don't skimp, do all that you can, stop when you have to, but don't limit yourself. Use a dust mop, mow your grass, go for a run and get hot and sweaty. I saw, and last thing that, I will say when I go back to the sauna type thing, you see these advertisements for people not sweating. If you go in a sauna and it's not hot enough for you to sweat, so over 160 degrees, you don't get any of the benefits. So when people do the hacks, when they go in and just heat themselves up a little bit, but they avoid that sweat, even in the sauna sitting in place, as opposed to avoiding the sweat when they're exercising, you're still not going to get any benefit. So hacks don't work. Have your friends over. Be brave, cook plant-based, and give each day all you've got. If you want to find out how you can take it to the next level, go on over to drdulaney.com, DoctorDulaney, if you need a little push, a little kick in the patootie to get things going. We would love to help you find your grocery store and find your kitchen and find your running shoes. So email me at Jami@drdulaney.com. It's Jami if you have any questions or you'd like to talk about a consultation. And we enjoy hearing from you. Thank you for listening as always. I am off to Georgia, Vogel State Park, to continue my quest for the Leadville Silver Rush 50 miler. So we're going to go run some hills this weekend. I'll report back on just how high the hills are in Georgia. So take care. Go out and get some sunshine.